Have you ever been disrespected, maybe in a public setting or by someone close to you, and felt that rush of anger, frustration, or even embarrassment? It's a deeply uncomfortable feeling when someone belittles you, dismisses your worth, or crosses a line. Your first instinct might be to react, to defend yourself, or to fight back with words. After all, it's only natural to want to protect your dignity and to prove that you won't let anyone walk all over you. But what if I told you that the most powerful response in these moments isn't to speak up at all, but instead to remain silent? At first, this might sound counterintuitive. In fact, many of us might feel like staying silent means we're weak, or that we're letting the other person get away with their disrespect. But silence, especially in the face of disrespect, isn't a sign of submission. It's actually a powerful tool for maintaining control over the situation. It's a strategy that requires emotional strength, maturity, and self-discipline. When we choose to stay quiet, we deny the other person the emotional reaction they may be seeking from us. This idea isn't just a theory, it's something that Jordan Peterson, a renowned psychologist and thinker, often emphasizes. According to Peterson, silence isn't about avoiding confrontation or pretending the disrespect didn't happen. It's about keeping our composure, preserving our dignity, and refusing to be emotionally manipulated. By staying silent, we're not surrendering or allowing the other person to win. Instead, we are taking the reins of the situation, choosing to remain unaffected and maintaining control over our own emotional state. In this video, we'll dive into why silence can be your most powerful weapon in moments of disrespect, how it can prevent further escalation, and how it helps you retain your strength and peace when it matters most. Staying quiet in the face of disrespect is often misunderstood as weakness or submission. Many people assume that by not defending ourselves verbally, we are passively allowing the other person to get away with their behavior or showing that we lack the courage to stand up for ourselves. This misconception arises because we are conditioned to believe that standing up for ourselves requires an immediate verbal defense, a confrontation of sorts, where we assert our position and make our voice heard. However, in reality, silence is far from a passive response. It is, in fact, a powerful and active choice. It's a deliberate decision to control the narrative, to dictate the direction of the situation, and to maintain our dignity in the face of disrespect. When we react impulsively or angrily to disrespect, we often find ourselves regretting our words later. The things we say in the heat of the moment can escalate the conflict, making it worse than it originally was. Anger often clouds our judgment and leads to responses we may not truly mean. In these instances, we sacrifice our peace and often give the other person more power over us than we should. Silence, on the other hand, offers a different path. Instead of reacting immediately, it provides us with the space to pause, reflect, and gain perspective on the situation. This brief moment of stillness allows us to regain control over our emotions, giving us the opportunity to think clearly and avoid the pitfalls of knee-jerk reactions. Jordan Peterson often emphasizes the importance of silence in moments of conflict or disrespect. He explains that silence is not about avoiding confrontation or denying our feelings, but about creating space to reflect before we speak or act. This reflection allows us to respond with purpose, to consider the potential consequences of our words or actions, and to choose the most appropriate course of action rather than acting out of emotional turmoil. When we make the conscious decision to stay silent, we are asserting our control over the situation and demonstrating a level of emotional intelligence and self-discipline that speaks volumes more than any hasty response ever could. By choosing silence, we create a buffer between the situation and our response, giving ourselves the time and space to decide how we wish to react. This buffer ensures that our actions are deliberate rather than reactive, that we are acting with intention and not out of the immediate heat of the moment. In this way, silence becomes a tool for self-mastery. It reveals more about our strength than words ever could. The ability to withhold a verbal response when we are disrespected requires a tremendous amount of self-discipline and inner strength, qualities that are often far more powerful and impactful than any words we could choose in an attempt to defend ourselves. Furthermore, silence allows us to retain our dignity in a way that an emotional outburst might not. When we choose not to engage in a verbal altercation, we demonstrate that we are not easily shaken by the actions of others. We remain centered and composed, which can be far more disarming to the person trying to provoke us. It shows that we are in control of ourselves and that we value our peace more than winning a fleeting argument or confrontation. This choice to remain silent reveals to others, and more importantly, to ourselves, that we are not defined by external disrespect, but by our own inner strength and character. In essence, silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a powerful act of restraint and self-control. It allows us to maintain our integrity, avoid unnecessary escalation, and protect our mental and emotional well-being. By mastering the art of silence, we demonstrate a deeper strength, one that transcends the immediate emotional reaction and reflects a greater understanding of ourselves and the situation at hand. We've all encountered situations where we've been disrespected, and often these moments happen in front of others, adding a layer of humiliation or anger to the experience. In those moments, it's natural to feel the urge to defend ourselves, to retaliate, or to prove our worth in some way. The instinct is strong, to respond with anger, to stand up for ourselves, and to demonstrate that we won't be taken advantage of. It's easy to feel that defending our dignity through words or actions will somehow restore balance. However, Jordan Peterson, a prominent thinker, advises against this instinctive response. He explains that when we react out of anger or frustration, we allow the other person to dictate our emotions and our behavior. In essence, we lose control of the situation by allowing ourselves to be governed by emotions in the heat of the moment. This loss of control can set us on a destructive path. When we give in to the urge to retaliate emotionally, we engage in a cycle that only perpetuates the negativity. By reacting in this way, we inadvertently empower the person who disrespects us. They've succeeded in drawing us into their world of emotional conflict where logic and reason often take a back seat to immediate feelings of anger or frustration. Peterson warns that this is a dangerous path, one that often leads to regret and further disrespect. We may win the battle in the moment, but at what cost? The emotional toll on ourselves and the potential damage to our own integrity can far outweigh any short-lived victory. Instead of following this instinctive reaction, Peterson proposes that we remain silent, not as a sign of surrender, but as a deliberate act of maintaining control over our own response. Silence, in this context, is not about submitting to the disrespect or ignoring it. It's about recognizing that engaging emotionally only leads us deeper into the cycle of negativity and choosing instead to retain control of the situation. By refusing to engage in the emotional exchange, we take back the power to determine how we will react. In this way, we protect ourselves from being pulled into a battle that is not worth fighting. The silence itself becomes an act of strength, an assertion that the other person's actions have no bearing on our emotional state or self-worth. Moreover, remaining silent in the face of disrespect sends a powerful message to the person who seeks to provoke us. It shows them that their attempts to get a reaction from us are futile. The lack of an emotional response can often be far more effective than any words or arguments we could offer. It demonstrates that we are unaffected by their attempts to destabilize us, and in this way, silence becomes a tool of resilience. It allows us to remain composed, centered, and unaffected by their negativity. Rather than getting caught up in the emotional chaos of the situation, we hold on to our peace and strength. In doing so, we maintain our dignity and our ability to navigate the world around us with composure and self-assurance. In essence, silence is a form of emotional self-preservation. It's a way to avoid being swept up in the destructive energy of the situation. By choosing not to respond impulsively, we make a conscious decision to protect our inner peace and to keep our focus on what truly matters. It's a reminder that we don't have to prove ourselves to others, and that the most powerful response often comes from within, not from the words we say, but from the strength we show by remaining calm and in control. The beauty of silence lies in its ability to communicate without words. Often, when we are disrespected, the immediate reaction is to defend ourselves, to explain our point of view, or to argue our case. However, as Jordan Peterson points out, this kind of verbal confrontation is often counterproductive. It tends to escalate tensions and rarely leads to a constructive resolution. When we choose silence, however, we force the other person to confront the reality of their behavior without the crutch of a response from us. In some cases, this silence can make the other person feel uncomfortable, as they realize that their words or actions have not achieved the desired effect. Peterson suggests that by remaining quiet, we subtly let the other person know that their disrespect does not have the power to influence us. This can be an incredibly powerful message, one that communicates that we are not easily shaken by negativity, and that we have the strength to remain calm, no matter the provocation. It's important to understand that silence doesn't equate to passivity or submission. Many people mistakenly associate silence with weakness, believing that if we don't respond or speak up immediately, we are surrendering to the disrespect or allowing the other person to win. However, silence, when chosen consciously, is one of the most assertive responses we can give. In fact, it requires far more strength and discipline than reacting impulsively with anger or frustration. By staying silent, we are not avoiding confrontation or backing down. Rather, we are deliberately choosing not to engage in a battle that doesn't serve our higher purpose or bring anything of value to the situation. When we remain quiet, we refuse to lower ourselves to the level of negativity that the other person is trying to provoke. We recognize that engaging in an emotional exchange with someone who is disrespecting us only fuels the fire, making it more likely that the situation will escalate and that we will be dragged into an unnecessary conflict. Silence allows us to maintain control over the narrative. We demonstrate through our calm demeanor that we are above the petty attempts at provocation and that we do not feel the need to validate ourselves by arguing or defending our position. It's a powerful form of self-respect because it communicates that we are not easily swayed by the actions or words of others. Jordan Peterson's teachings reinforce this idea by highlighting that silence is not about retreating or avoiding confrontation, but about choosing to preserve our integrity and sense of self. When we engage in conflict, especially one that is built on disrespect, we risk losing a part of our peace and self-worth. Peterson encourages us to think of silence as an active decision to protect our mental and emotional well-being. It's a shield that protects us from the toxicity that others may try to impose. Rather than allowing ourselves to be dragged into a battle, we maintain our focus on what truly matters, our personal values, our goals, and our peace of mind. Silence, in this sense, isn't about passivity. It's about strength and purpose. Responding to disrespect with anger or frustration can often leave us feeling drained and diminished. The emotional toll of getting caught up in negative exchanges is profound. In the heat of the moment, we might feel justified in defending ourselves, but afterward, we are left with a lingering sense of frustration and regret. Silence, on the other hand, provides a level of emotional protection. It keeps us grounded and shields us from the draining effects of negativity. When we choose silence, we are preserving our energy and emotional stability. allowing us to remain calm and unaffected by the external chaos. Moreover, silence creates space for us to reflect and regain our composure, giving us the ability to respond more thoughtfully when the time is right. It allows us to step away from the immediate emotional reaction and consider the situation more rationally. This space provides us with the clarity to decide whether a response is truly necessary or if it is better to walk away altogether. This way, silence acts as a powerful tool for maintaining our mental and emotional fortitude, helping us focus on the things that are truly important instead of getting lost in petty disputes or emotional tangles. Ultimately, choosing silence over a reactive response helps us maintain our strength. It's not about avoiding conflict, it's about recognizing that not every situation deserves our time, energy, or emotional investment. By staying quiet, we signal to ourselves and others that we are not willing to be dragged into the negativity. We stand firm in our own values, and we rise above the insults or provocations of others. In the long run, silence can be the most powerful act of defiance against disrespect, one that demonstrates not only our emotional intelligence, but also our unwavering commitment to our own peace and dignity. In conclusion, staying quiet after being disrespected is not about avoiding confrontation or being passive. On the contrary, it's about exercising self-control and choosing the high road. Jordan Peterson teaches us that silence is not just a neutral response, but a powerful tool that allows us to protect our peace and maintain our dignity. In moments of disrespect, we are presented with a choice: to react impulsively and let the situation dictate our emotions, or to remain silent and retain control. The latter is often the wisest course of action. It allows us to avoid unnecessary conflict, preserve our self-respect, and ultimately demonstrate that we are the ones who are truly in control. By choosing silence, we protect ourselves from the emotional chaos that can come from engaging in toxic interactions, and instead, we show the world that we are grounded, composed, and in charge of our own response to any situation.